Hi everyone, it's Chris speaking. Welcome back to another video. I'm not really sure where this video is going to go, so bear with me. I want to talk to you about exploring your past. Now, that may seem dysphoria-inducing, it might seem a little bit silly, but it is one of the things that a gender therapist is going to ask you. So in Australia, or the process that I went through, one of the things that you had to do was see a psychologist for 4 or 5 sessions. It could go on for longer if they feel like you needed it to, before you basically got signed off onto the second doctor to get you onto HRT. One of the things that psychologist needs to do is look into your childhood. So basically, it's a whole bunch of psychoanalysis that looks into your past and looks into how you were growing up to see if there were any signs that maybe you weren't identifying as the gender you were born in. Now, not everyone's story is the same. There are trans guys out there who wore dresses and played with Barbies, and then later in life was like, that isn't for me. There are trans guys out there who rejected anything remotely feminine, and as soon as they hit puberty, they were like, no, I can't go through, a female puberty. So what I'm saying is everybody's story is different. And this was kind of interesting when it was opened up to me and I was talking about my own childhood, because I didn't sort of fit on one end of the spectrum or the other in terms of a male or female dynamic. I did things that were stereotypically female, I did things that were stereotypically male, and I sort of didn't really have a point during my childhood where I was like, yeah, okay, I know this is wrong. There was also other stuff going on in my childhood, which means that my development or my realization of being trans came to me a little bit later in life. So one of the things that they sort of asked me to do was look back on any times when, I would identify more with doing masculine stuff versus doing feminine stuff. I wasn't, or not that I can't remember being into things like dolls or anything. I know that I had them, but I mainly associate Barbies and playing house and things like that with my sister, and sort of playing with her and playing with the dolls and whatever, and that sort of interaction. I don't remember playing with them myself. What I remember doing is reading or using my imagination to create my own games, and I would be super boring. I'd lock myself in a room and I would write, or I would read, or I would play video games, and if I, went outside, I'd be playing basketball, or I wanted to ride my bike. I wasn't really interested in doing a lot of the girly things from what I can remember. And I can't remember ever wanting to sort of dress up in girly outfits. I was definitely a shorts and t-shirt kind of person from a very young age, and remember being super uncomfortable being in feminine clothes from a very young age, but again, it sort of didn't twig. For me, a big one was reading, and they sort of, I liked reading. It was a way for me to escape into other worlds. So the therapist talked to me about what sort of books I would read as a child. Now, that didn't help them at all, because basically I was into Nancy Drew, I was into Charmed, I was into the Babysitters Club. I'm old, shut up everyone. But on the other end of that, I really liked Goosebumps, and I liked Animorphs, and I liked a couple of other sort of male authors. And I'm going to use books in terms of my own development, because that has sort of expanded into my into my adult life as well. So once I sort of hit those teenage years and I started reading some more young adult and adult content, I picked 2 authors on the farthest ends of the spectrum. I had V.C. Andrews on one end, who was all sort of like family drama, quite, girl power and female oriented, and yay women. I also had Stephen King, and I read so much of both of them while I was growing up, and I sort of didn't develop in terms of one way or the other. So they're like, okay, well, what about TV shows? And when I was sort of in that puberty phase of 14, 15, 16, towards the end of high school, started to realize that I liked girls, and I just thought that, okay, well, I'm gay. So I used to watch stuff with hot female leads. Again, Charmed was up there, and I thought that's why I was interested in that sort of content. It wasn't until sort of later during uni when my partner at the time would be watching things that had male leads, and I just got super jealous of the quintessential hot guys that she was ogling, and I would have to sort of pick them apart and not want any part of it because they were threatening to me, and I didn't realize that until going through this therapy process. So it is going to bring up some stuff, and a lot of it, might suck, and that's one of the things that they're going to ask you, is to start looking at your past. And you don't necessarily need a psychologist to start doing that. If you're questioning, you can look back, and it's definitely something that I did and agonized over and over and over and over with my partner while I was going through the beginning stages of questioning my gender. Is, oh, well, that makes sense, and oh, well, that makes sense from my past. And those two things that I spoke about a few videos before, which I can put a link to at the end of this, where I said the two big things that really pushed me towards transition was my feelings towards children, and there was something else that I should remember, but it's in that video, and I'll put it up. So, I never saw myself as a mother. I always saw myself as a father. From a very young age, I was always dad, regardless of what gender I was identifying as. And that was a really big thing for me, and that's, what sort of pushed me towards starting a physical transition, was that image of me has never changed. And I also never saw myself living past 30. That was the other thing, because I couldn't see myself being a young to middle-aged woman in the world. It just didn't appeal to me. As soon as I realized that I could be a middle-aged man, that vision completely opened up. So looking back on the past, whilst it can be painful, is going to help you bring about, your journey. That's it from me. Just a little introduction to my past. There are other there are good English, Chris. There is other stuff that I can make another video about, that I started looking into and it started making sense. If you are interested in that kind of content, let me know below. If you like this, give it a thumbs up. If you want to subscribe, my face will be somewhere on the screen. Not this face, it will probably be down on this side. I normally put it there. Okay, that's it. Thanks guys, thanks for watching. Okay, bye. Yay, we're done.